Hi, my name's Jackie James. I'm the founder of the VA Project, an online coaching and mentoring program that has been helping virtual assistants to change their lifestyles since 2015. Welcome to the VA Project blogcast, where I will share what I did to go from a corporate career to running my own business and living a debt-free lifestyle. If I can do it, you can too. Let's jump into the episode. This is Jackie from the VA Project podcast. Today's chat is a bit like bearing my soul because this is not something that I'm terribly proud of, but it is an incredible lesson in both my personal and my business journey. It was a hard lesson, but it's one that I never lost any sleep over, because it happened for the right reasons. So as today's topic is how I lost $12,000 and found freedom. In truth, it was probably more like $15,000, but let's just even it out. The number 6 is my favourite number, so let's go with 12 for obvious reasons. It started with a client, as they all do. One day the client reached out to me. We'd been working together for quite some time and they were headed in a new direction and they wanted to change things up, and because I was up for a challenge, I was in. You know, that old saying, in for a penny, in for a pound? Well, I jumped in both feet. Why did I do that? Because I was extremely familiar with how the client worked. We'd worked together for a long time. This wasn't just a new client that had just come on board. This was somebody I knew and I trusted. And unfortunately for me, they took that trust too far. So we spoke about mixing things up for the client, what I would be involved in, how we would work with the team, because the team was a global team. It wasn't just in Australia, they were all over the world. And the client had really big ideas and was investing an awful lot of money in people helping them get where they wanted to be. The client, money was not an issue. Simple as that. That said, they were not paying me what I would like to have been paid because, again, I was familiar with the client and I trusted them. And I was happy to help them, like we all are when we start out in our virtual assistant businesses. We have this misguided need to nurture and help people along. Well, here I am, X years down the track, and I still have that misguided need to help people. Now I'm a lot smarter because of what actually happened all those years ago. So to cut a very long story short, one night, friends and my husband and I were on a holiday. I can still see it now. We were in this really quaint country pub. We were in a different state. I can see the big fireplace, the keg barrels in the pub, just people hanging around them. And we were getting ready to sit down for dinner and my phone rang. It was the client. So the client says to me, I can still hear it like it was only yesterday. The client says to me, I have a huge favour to ask and I'll understand if you say no. To me, I know it's pitiful. It was almost like, I'm not going to say no. You know I will help. Anyway, the client, after I said, look, that's fine. What is it? What do you need help with? The client then said to me, I'm making changes to the operation. So this is now a couple of years down the track of, working on this big project. And I said to the client, well, okay, what do you need me to do? The client said, I need you to, if you can see your way clear, that's another giveaway when they say that. If you can see your way clear. So they're putting the onus on you to make the decision, knowing full well you're going to make the decision in their favour. At least I did. And the client said, can you hold your invoice? That should have been the hugest red flag. But it wasn't. I thought, okay. I do recall thinking, why would they ask that? Money was no object, so why would they need to even say that? So further into the conversation, the client says, we're making some more changes, relocating some of the international team, blah, blah. And until we get everybody set in new roles, can you keep doing X, Y, Z and just hold your invoice for a month? Okay. So I said, yes, look, I'm happy to do whatever's needed to help. So I did that. And before that month was up, I got another phone call. Only this time I can't remember where I was because it was just so insignificant. But the second phone call asked me if I would extend it another month. Now, right now, we're talking about November. So coming up to Christmas, and right now the client's into me for thousands of dollars. Owes me thousands and thousands of dollars. And part of having a debt-free lifestyle was I wasn't in that urgent need for the money. That sounds really glib now, and I get that, and I apologise if anyone's offended by me saying that. But at the time, I was prepared to keep wearing all the thousands of dollars that this client was racking up. Then in December, towards probably the week before Christmas, I received another phone call. Like, there were daily communications, like always talking with the client, working on the projects with other team members. And the client rang me up the week before Christmas and said, look, I'm so sorry, but can you wait now until the end of January, mid-February? Again, I must have had sucker written right across my forehead. You know where this is going, don't you? You know what I'm going to say. The title of this blogcast says it all anyway. And I said, oh, okay, not a problem. So I noted how much extra needed to be added on. And because of the Christmas New Year break, there was less to do. So I didn't feel, I wasn't in the business every day. So I wasn't thinking about the money that this client owed me. Came February, I let it slide. The client relocated and things sort of quietened down a little bit. I wasn't getting the information that I needed consistently. So by this time, the gut feeling that I should have had many months before suddenly hit me like a brick. So I kept sending invoices and the invoices kept coming back unpaid. And I was being ghosted. And I'm sure many of you know what that feels like. And it is the most horrible feeling when you have given blood, sweat and tears to somebody and they decide that for whatever reason they don't want to pay. And after probably March, April of the next year, I thought to myself, it's gone. The money's gone. The client's gone. Team members were contacting me, telling me what had happened to them, and exactly the same. And because they knew the client as well as I did, they also fell into the trap of wanting to help and keep helping until such time as the client ghosted them and refused to pay their bills also. And then one day I was working at my desk, and it was exactly 12:30 in the afternoon, and somebody was at my back door screaming out my name. Now, I thought, what? Who does that? Nobody does that. So I got up, raced to the back door, and there was a man there who I knew who said, "Your husband needs help. He's collapsed by the car." So we raced out to the carport, and my husband had been out getting firewood. And this gentleman had been across the road at the golf course playing golf. And the 18th hole is directly opposite our driveway. And he was at the 18th hole. And my husband managed to signal for help. This gentleman saw him and came running across. By the time I got to my car, my husband was grey. He was having a massive heart attack. With the hospital to my left, across the road was the football ground, then the hospital. We put him into my car and raced around to the hospital. And long story short, the air ambulance was called because we live in a remote area of Victoria. The air ambulance arrived. They didn't expect him to survive when he got to Melbourne. The air ambulance took him to Melbourne, and I then spent 6 hours in the car driving to Melbourne that day. And when I got there, they said to me that they didn't expect my husband to survive the night. But anyway, many years later, here I am telling you that he is very much alive and kicking. But in the first couple of weeks in hospital, he was in there 5 weeks. I actually had to stay in Melbourne. And while I had family and friends and accommodation wasn't an issue, I thought now might be a good time to reach out to this client, ex-client, and see if they were in a position to pay at least part of the invoice. So I rang the client and they answered the phone. I didn't mention a thing about the troubles that I'd been through. I asked them how they were going, asked them if everything was okay, and could they see their way clear to paying at least a portion of the invoice that they had owed me for, 7 months. The client then ranted and raved at me over the phone, telling me or yelling at me that he didn't know how he was going to pay his rent on the home that he rented. And my response in that split second, my response was to say to the client, okay, not a problem. Thanks for your time. And I hang up. To this day, that client is still operating a business. I haven't spoken to them, and this is 5 years ago now. I haven't spoken to them, acknowledged them, or done anything other than I have allowed myself the sanity to just go on without stressing about it. I see some, and this is a very, very long story, and I apologise in advance to that. But I see in some groups where virtual assistants are up in arms because somebody hasn't paid them $50 or $100 or paid them for a couple of hours work that they've done. I do not know their circumstances. I do not know where they live or anything else about them other than I really feel for them. And sometimes the conversations go on forever and ever and ever. And I made that decision that day on the phone call that I would just say goodbye to that money. And I did. I never really thought about it. I just made it all for my own mental health and well-being, because that is a lot of money to just say goodbye to. Especially when we could have needed a little help at that time. That money definitely would have come in handy while I was living in Melbourne for those weeks that my husband was in the hospital. But I do not, the funny thing is, and the calming thing is, I do not regret it. I don't regret the decision that I made. I don't regret working for that client, because the learnings and the new skills that I developed along the way in helping them with their projects was immeasurable. It taught me patience and humility, and it taught me that I was actually the better person, and that it doesn't matter how much money you have, there is no excuse for not paying anybody. Doesn't matter. If you can't afford to have somebody work for you, you tell them goodbye. It's as simple as that. In my book, with a virtual assistant, if you can't afford to keep somebody on your books as a subcontractor, then you have to say goodbye. At J&J, we have my culture is when an invoice is submitted to me for payment, it is paid within 48 hours. I have never missed a beat, because I know some of the circumstances that some of the team members and virtual assistants that work with J&J are in. And they give me 150% in everything that they do. And I appreciate them, and they are precious and valued and loved. And if ever I was to say goodbye to J&J, then I would do everything in my power to make sure that they would be taken care of. As far as working with, continued working with clients and so forth. So that's what this losing $12,000 and finding freedom has done for me. I hope you get something out of this other than me just having a platform to talk about it. But I think it's really important to put into perspective. If you're working with a client who's overseas and you have a contract and they've signed the contract, it doesn't matter if you're in a country where it's going to be difficult to chase debt collection. You have to ask yourself, is it worth it? Is it worth the legal fees, lawyers, perhaps court, Do you even have the jurisdiction in the country that you have to do that if the client's in another country? There are so many ifs and buts that come with working with clients internationally. And I don't think a contract is necessarily binding. I'm always a little amused when I see, more experienced VAs say to lesser experienced VAs, oh, have a contract, make them sign a contract, put that clause in your contract. But they've welched on the contract. Well, they signed the contract so you can sue them. I don't know how many VAs that have successfully sued. I haven't heard of any VAs that have successfully sued a client or chased a client with debt collection for $100 or $200. Now, I'm not saying that losing $12,000 was something that I could do every day, but I had to make the decision. I was going to either let it eat me up, which would impact the business, which would mean my other clients would suffer because I would be so stressed out about this money, or I could just wipe my hands of it, hope the client led a really good life, but you know what? Karma comes around. And karma will take care of it for me. And yeah, it was a tough one. But listen to your gut. When you think something's going in the wrong direction, it most possibly is. You either call it or you make the decision to continue and suffer the consequences. But either way, you have a choice. And freedom is a mindset. When it comes to dealing with money, I've found freedom is a mindset. And once you decide to let something go, things just free up. New clients come in the door. Old clients go out. And this is only proof of it because JMJ has just gone on from strength to strength since those early days. So this year I'm 14 years, I think, or is it 13 years in business? I'll need to consult the calendar. And I have been grateful for every single day I've had because of the learnings, the people I've come in touch with, the clients I've worked with, and the virtual assistants that have crossed my path. Whatever it is you're doing today, I hope you have an amazing day. If you are having any issues, I'm happy to get back to you in an email. Just drop me a line through the contact on my website, www.vaproject.com. Just go to the contact page and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks for listening in, and I'll catch you on the next episode. Bye. Thank you so much for listening in to the VA Project blogcast. For more great resources, visit www.thevaproject.com and start changing your lifestyle. And if you're sick of getting lost in the mega online groups, join our online community on Facebook. Simply search the VA Project and I'll look forward to welcoming you.